people talk about hack and slash character action games, the usual Titan franchises hog all the air in the room. But Ultra Age managed to slip into the arena like a rogue Blade enthusiast who watched way too much anime and decided to build an entire game around weapon endurance. You play as Age, a sword-swinging warrior who looks like he survived on a diet of hair gel and pure spite, accompanied by a floating orb companion named Helvis, who acts as your tactical guide and occasional mood killer. What makes this combat engine tick isn't just flashy combos, but a blade durability mechanic that actually rewards you for chewing through your arsenal instead of hoarding your best gear. Your blades wear down fast, forcing you to constantly cycle between lightning-fast katanas, heavy claymores, and wire blades mid-combo, turning every encounter into a frantic game of mechanical hot potato where letting off the gas means getting flattened by post-apocalyptic monstrosities. It's tight, responsive, and clearly made by a small Korean studio that dumped every single dollar of its budget straight into making swing animations feel crisp and crunchy. The story is mostly sci-fi background noise about a dying Earth, and nobody is writing deep thematic papers on the dialogue. However, treating it as a pure adrenaline delivery system where you hook shot between enemies and juggle giant mechanical bosses reveals a budget-friendly gem that scratches that relentless itch classic Devil May Cry fans have been desperately hunting for years. When a solo developer spends 7 years cooking up a love letter to 16-bit JRPGs, you usually expect a charming throwback that relies heavily on nostalgic fan service, but Chained Echoes somehow outmaneuvers the classics it pays homage to. Set on the war-torn continent of Volandis, this story dives headfirst into political intrigue, betrayal, and ancient destructive magic without ever dragging you through hours of tedious filler. What instantly sets this combat system apart is the overdrive meter, a constant balancing act that turns standard turn-based battles into a thrilling game of tactical chicken. Every action nudges a needle along a color-coded bar, forcing you to constantly swap abilities or switch out party members mid-fight to avoid overheating and taking massive damage. Just when you think you have mastered the rhythm of boots-on-the-ground swordplay, the game casually hands you customizable sky mechs, changing how you approach encounter positioning and exploration across giant floating islands. Random encounter grinding is tossed out the window in favor of visible map enemies and an ingenious connected reward board system that constantly gives you meaningful goals. The party cast actually feels like real people with actual flaws rather than walking anime cliches, and the soundtrack slaps with an absolute vengeance. It respects your time, constantly throws fresh mechanical gameplay twists at your feet, and proves that pixel art role-playing games can still feel entirely modern when built with genuine passion and razor-sharp design. Few modern first-person shooters balance absolute narrative absurdity and surprisingly emotional character beats, quite like Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Stepping back into the magnetic combat boots of BJ Blazkowicz, who is somehow running on sheer spite and broken bones in a dystopian alternate history 1960s America. The game drops you straight into a wild resistance campaign against a ruthless invading empire. Machine games refuse to play it safe here, serving up a storyline that transitions seamlessly from heartbreaking childhood flashbacks to firing dual automatic shotguns while riding a giant mechanical flame-throwing beast through quiet suburban streets. The moment-to-moment gunplay is aggressively fast and wonderfully chaotic, letting you dual-wield virtually any combination of heavy firearms to turn entire rooms of heavily armored enemies into red mist in seconds. Instead of hiding behind cover like a timid tactical shooter, combat actively forces you to sprint forward to salvage health, armor, and fresh ammunition directly off your freshly vanquished foes. Between high-stakes firefights, your captured submarine home base functions as a vibrant social hub filled with eccentric resistance fighters who banter, argue, and throw bizarre parties, making the cast feel surprisingly human amidst all the endless mayhem. It is unapologetically loud, brilliantly acted, and packed with unforgettable set pieces that constantly push single-player action to absolute extremes. Ultimately, it delivers an unhinged, heart-pounding ride that never lets its foot off the accelerator from the explosive opening minutes right up to the final credits roll. Stepping into the post-apocalyptic wasteland of Da'at isn't for the faint of heart. But Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance takes an already stellar, punishing JRPG and turns it into the definitive demon collecting masterpiece. Playing as a high school student fused with a mysterious entity to become the hair Fabulous Nahobino, you're dumped into a sun-bleached, demon-infested Tokyo where survival means mastering the series' famous press-turn combat system. Hitting enemy weaknesses rewards extra actions, while making a single tactical misstep hands the boss turn right back to wipe your party in seconds. Map navigation is remarkably engaging this time around, featuring dynamic rail grinding and vertical shortcuts across ruined skyscrapers. The Vengeance Edition elevates the original release by introducing the Canon of Vengeance, an entirely new storyline branching off mid-game with fresh characters, terrifying new demons, and massive quality-of-life overhauls like streamlined exploration and mid-dungeon saving. Instead of relying on power of friendship tropes common in mainstream RPGs, SMTV demands cold-hearted pragmatism where you constantly negotiate with, recruit, and sacrifice mythological entities in brutal fusion chambers to build the ultimate battle squad. The soundtrack is an absolute banger of industrial metal and ethereal synth tracks that drive every tense encounter home. For hardcore turn-based combat junkies who want a deep, challenging RPG where every victory feels earned through tactical brilliance rather than mindless grinding. This complete package delivers pure apocalyptic perfection on modern hardware, giving longtime fans the ultimate dark fantasy experience.
But I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Walking through the sprawling, architecture-defying house of the cursed Finch family feels less like playing a traditional video game and more like wandering inside an intricate storybook where every room is a preserved shrine to someone's tragic final moments. As Edith returns to her childhood home to uncover why every single member of her family tree meets an untimely demise, the game delivers one of the most inventive storytelling experiences ever put on screen. Rather than relying on simple walking simulator mechanics or boring audio logs, each relative's memory plays out as a unique mini-game with its own distinct mechanical language. You might find yourself controlling a giant sea monster tearing through a wooden toy ship, flying a kite in a comic book strip, or working a mind-numbing factory shift while your imagination slowly constructs a full fantasy kingdom in the corner of your eye. That factory sequence alone captures the eerie disconnect of daily routine so brilliantly that it stays stuck in your head for weeks. Giant Sparrow managed to blend dark comedy, whimsical wonder, and genuine heartbreak without ever feeling manipulative or overly grim. The pacing is ridiculously tight, clocking in at around 2 hours with zero fluff or wasted motion. You walk away floored by how effortlessly it uses interactive mechanics to communicate complex human emotions, making it an absolute high watermark for narrative game design.
Your parents' time draws to an end. Still, the people await
stripping away health bars, weapon degradation, and hostile enemies from an open-world adventure sounds like a recipe for a snooze fest. Yet Yonder the Cloud Catcher Chronicles turns complete pacifism into an absolute art form. Dropping you onto the lush island of Disgaea after a tragic shipwreck, the game looks at every stressful trope in modern gaming and politely tosses it into the sea. Instead of swinging swords at goblins, your main objective is clearing away a mysterious purple haze called murk by finding adorable hidden sprites scattered across diverse biomes, ranging from tropical beaches to snowy mountain peaks. You spend your afternoons crafting tools, adopting giant fluffy beasts called groffles, building custom farms and fishing until the sun goes down without a single monster jumping out of the bushes to ruin your vibe. The whole experience feels like taking a warm bath after playing hours of high-stakes competitive shooters, offering a tranquil playground where pure curiosity serves as the primary engine driving you forward. Sure, the absence of combat means there are no heart-pounding boss battles or nail-biting showdowns, and running errands can occasionally feel repetitive when attempting to rush through the campaign. However, for anyone who wants the thrill of discovering wide horizons and building a cozy countryside life without the constant threat of getting impaled by a stray arrow, Yonder serves up a surprisingly addictive, stress-free escape that celebrates the simple joy of wandering.
Midnight Channel before she died too.
Dumping a trendy city teenager into a foggy rural Japanese town sounds like the setup for a dreary slice of life drama, But Persona 4 Golden turns the sleepy hamlet of Inaba into one of the most cozy and addicting murder mystery playgrounds in gaming history. When local murder victims start turning up hanging from telephone poles and TV antennas, you and your high school squad discover that jumping inside TV screens grants access to a twisted shadow world where people's repressed subconscious desires take terrifying physical form. The genius of the gameplay lies in how it seamlessly balances dungeon crawling turn-based combat with daily high school life. Your afternoon choices actually matter, hanging out at the local diner with friends, taking on part-time tutoring jobs, or studying for midterms directly powers up your Persona fusions for weekend dungeon raids? That constant balance between social management and shadow slaying creates an incredible groove where you tell yourself just one more day until 4 in the morning. The investigation team cast carries legendary chemistry, making you feel like an actual high school kid hanging out with goofballs who tease each other while solving a bizarre serial killer case. Backed by Shoji Meguro's infectious upbeat pop soundtrack, this classic delivers a warm sense of nostalgic camaraderie that stays with you long after the credits roll, making every single hour spent in Inaba feel like time thoroughly well spent. Ubisoft taking a legendary action franchise and pivoting back to a 2.5D side-scrolling format might have raised some eyebrows at first, but Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown immediately shuts down any skepticism by being an absolute triumph of Metroidvania game design. Playing as Sargon, a dual-blade-wielding warrior from an elite squad called the Immortals, you're sent into the cursed city of Mount Kaf to rescue a kidnapped prince, only to discover that time itself is shattered. Combat here feels ridiculously smooth, combining blistering aerial juggle combos, lightning-fast parries, and flashy special moves that reward precise reflexes rather than mindless button mashing. What really skyrockets the experience is how Sargon's time manipulation abilities weave directly into platforming traversal. Abilities like dropping a temporal clone to instantly warp back across deadly spike pits or pulling objects from alternate dimensions turn Mount Kaf's sprawling biomes into breathtaking acrobatic playgrounds. On top of that, the developers introduced a brilliant quality of life feature that lets you take screenshot memory pins on your map, effectively ending the ancient genre headache of forgetting which locked door you need to return to later. The boss fights are grand, screen-filling spectacles that test every combat trick in your arsenal without feeling cheap. It breathes vibrant, energetic life into a classic series, serving up relentless platforming challenges and fierce combat that keep your hands glued to the controller from start to finish. Following up a beloved dark fantasy indie hit isn't an easy task, but Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist manages to take everything that made Ender Lilies a breakout success and refine the formula into a slick, atmospheric Metroidvania. Set decades after the original tragedy, you awaken as Lilac, a young attuner capable of cleansing corrupted artificial life forms called homunculi in a soot-choked realm known as the Land of Fumes. Rather than swinging heavy broadswords yourself, Lilac relies on the purified spirits of defeated boss monsters to fight on her behalf, turning combat into an adaptable custom-built dance of death. 1 minute, you're summoning a ghost knight for rapid fire slashes, and the next, you're dropping heavy subterranean drills or long-range firearms on incoming elite mobs before dashing clear of counterattacks. The revamped movement mechanics make exploring the sprawling industrial ruins feel exceptionally fluid right out of the gate, handing you snappy dashes and air mobility that eliminate early game sluggishness. Between the hauntingly melancholic soundtrack composed by Millie and the tragic lore tucked away in quiet rest stops, every new zone feels like traversing a living, decaying painting. Boss encounters strike a fantastic balance between demanding precise parry timings and rewarding clever loadout experimentation without ever devolving into unfair frustration. It's a gorgeous, deeply satisfying sequel that proves this gloomy universe still has plenty of incredible stories left to tell. Transporting Capcom's beloved courtroom drama to late 19th century Japan and Victorian London could have been a risky stylistic detour, but the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles stands as a brilliant legal masterpiece. Following Ryunosuke Naruhodo, an eager rookie defense lawyer attempting to survive high-stakes murder trials overseas, the collection packs 2 full-length games loaded with sharp wit, theatrical cross-examinations, and an eccentric cast you cannot help but love. Courtroom battles evolve far beyond simple point and prove logic puzzles, thanks to a multi-witness system where panicking bystanders blurt out wildly conflicting testimonies right on the stand. You also have to persuade a skeptical 6-person jury, steering their opinions back from complete guilty verdicts by cleverly turning their own absurd personal biases against them. The real highlight, however, comes from teaming up with the delightfully arrogant consulting detective Herlock Sholmes during investigation sequences. Together, you perform energetic dances of deduction, correcting his hilariously flawed theatrical theories to uncover hidden physical evidence in real time. The narrative pacing moves with impressive momentum, weaving intricate historical conspiracies across its sprawling 2-part saga that build toward genuinely shocking high-drama courtroom climaxes, backed by magnificent orchestral violin tracks and gorgeous period-accurate animation flair. This courtroom adventure delivers an unforgettable legal ride, where slamming your desk and screaming objection feels endlessly satisfying from start to finish. It's an absolute masterpiece of interactive detective storytelling that every mystery fan needs in their personal library. Pairing Nintendo's iconic mascot with Ubisoft's unhinged Rabbids was already a weirdly brilliant gamble in their first outing, but Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope takes that foundation, throws away grid-based tactical movement, and delivers a surprisingly deep strategy RPG. Instead of locking your squad into strict tile steps, this sequel hands you full real-time character movement within defined combat zones, allowing you to slide tackle enemies, leap off team members for massive aerial flanks, and duck behind cover seamlessly. The headline feature is the addition of Sparks, adorable hybrids of Loomis and Rabbids that grant your squad wildly elemental abilities like fire counterattacks, stealth cloaks, or area of effect poison waves. That mechanical shift opens up insane combo potential, letting you bounce an enemy into the air, snipe them mid-flight with Luigi, and finish the job with Bowser's heavy rocket launcher before your turn even ends. Between tactical skirmishes, you explore vibrant alien worlds filled with environmental puzzles, quirky side quests, and hilarious dialogue that highlights Rabbid Rosalina's permanent existential boredom. The removal of rigid grid movement might sound like a minor tweak on paper, but in practice, it turns every single encounter into an energetic, dynamic playground of tactical freedom. It's colorful, delightfully chaotic, and packs enough mechanical depth to keep hardened strategy veterans genuinely hooked, while keeping the overall vibe lighthearted, wildly imaginative, and endlessly fun from the moment you jump into your galactic spaceship.
Disgaea 5 Complete is a strategy RPG about possibilities. Really
Anyone searching for a strategy RPG that looks at standard balance systems laughs maniacally and actively encourages you to shatter the game using absurd numbers will find Disgaea 5 Complete to be their ultimate playground, centered around Killia, a brooding demon warrior leading a ragtag alliance of eccentric overlords to overthrow the galactic tyrant Void Dark. The story delivers classic anime comedy blended with surprisingly epic revenge tropes. Where this game truly shines, though, is in its legendary mechanical depth and ridiculous progression systems. We are talking about crazy high-level caps, character stats scaling into the tens of millions, and damage outputs that regularly smash past billions into trillion-digit territory. Combat plays out on isometric grids where throwing allies across the map, stacking 9 squad members into a towering human tower to beat up bosses, and triggering devastating revenge mode special attacks are everyday tactics. When you get tired of standard story chapters, you can dive headfirst into the item world, a procedurally generated dungeon system located inside every single item in your inventory, allowing you to fight through floor after floor just to level up a literal piece of chewing gum. Complete with every piece of DLC content packed directly into the package, it's an amazingly addictive spreadsheet deep time sink that respects player creativity and guarantees endless hours of hilarious tactical chaos. You will lose hundreds of hours without even noticing where the afternoon went.
As the daring hero Denim Pavel, alongside his sister Katua and childhood friend
Long
Vice,
before
Denim
modern tactical RPGs captured the hearts of strategy fans, Tactics Ogre laid the groundwork for mature, choice-driven political drama, and Tactics Ogre Reborn refines that legendary legacy into absolute perfection. Set in the war-torn Valerian Isles, you follow Dinn Pavel as he navigates brutal civil wars where moral choices are never black and white. The story actively tests your personal ethics, presenting branching narrative paths where following orders or defying commands drastically alters character fates, recruits, and ultimate endings. Tactical grid battles demand genuine strategic foresight, forcing you to account for elevation changes, archer line of sight, unit weight, and elemental affinities across tight isometric maps. This remaster overhauls the original experience with fully re-recorded orchestral audio, pristine, full voice acting in both English and Japanese, and streamlined mechanics like unit-based level caps that prevent mindless over-leveling. That means boss fights remain fiercely competitive, requiring you to utilize buff cards scattered across the battlefield, customize class skill sets, and leverage the World Tarot system to rewind tactical mistakes mid-battle. Combined with refined enemy AI that aggressively punishes poor unit positioning, the game turns every skirmish into a high-stakes chess match where victory feels immensely earned. It remains an absolute titan of the genre, offering a dark, gripping tale and masterclass tactical depth that every serious strategy fan deserves to experience. You can spend dozens of hours tweaking team setups and still find new tactical possibilities around every corner. Stepping onto the battered deck of an abandoned 1807 merchant vessel sounds like the setup for a standard supernatural ghost story, but Return of the Obra Dinn turns corporate paperwork into the most exhilarating detective game ever made, developed by Lucas Pope, the brilliant mind behind Papers, Please. This monochromatic mystery places you in the sensible shoes of an East India Company insurance investigator tasked with figuring out what happened to all 60 souls on board. Armed with a pocket watch called the Memento Mortem, you walk up to skeletal remains and trigger a frozen moment of their death, hearing the last few seconds of audio before exploring a 3D snapshot of the chaos. Your goal is filling out a logbook by correctly matching every victim's face to their name, nationality, and exact cause of death, whether they got clubbed by a crewmate, dragged under by a kraken, or vaporized by a stray cannonball. The game refuses to hold your hand, forcing you to rely on genuine logical deduction by tracking tiny visual details like hammock numbers, uniforms, regional accents, and subtle social dynamics. Fates are only validated in sets of 3, completely shutting down lazy guesswork and making every verified triad feel like a massive triumph of personal intellect. It transforms mundane maritime accounting into an addictive, mind-bending logic puzzle that respects your intelligence, proving that staring at hammock tags on a cursed ship can feel more thrilling than any high-octane action scene. Handing Nintendo's flagship Plumber a sentient hat capable of mind-controlling everything from a towering Tyrannosaurus Rex to a literal slab of meat shouldn't work as a cohesive game, but Super Mario Odyssey stands as a masterclass in pure platforming joy. Instead of locking players onto a rigid linear path, Odyssey hurls you into massive, vibrant sandbox kingdoms, bursting at the seams with secrets, quirky characters, and hundreds of collectible power moons. The secret sauce is Cappy, a magical cap that flips traditional movement mechanics on its head by letting Mario possess dozens of unique objects and enemies. One minute you're stacking a tower of 10 Goombas to impress a Lady Goomba, the next you're zipping through power lines as electrical energy, or speeding through the bustling streets of New Donk City while classic big band jazz blasts in the background. The controls feel so buttery smooth that simply jumping around a courtyard yields more mechanical satisfaction than finishing entire campaigns in lesser platformers. Nintendo packed every single corner with clever environmental puzzles, hidden 2D retro sections, and nostalgic nods that reward players for pulling off ridiculous momentum-based jumps. It isn't just a victory lap for 30+ years of Mario history, it's a masterfully designed playground that reminds everyone why they fell in love with video games in the first place, leaving you with a massive smile on your face from the opening cinematic right up to the final post-game unlock.
Okay everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please leave a like and subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to get notified when we release new content. We hope to see you in the next video.